In this chapter, we're going to create the fireplace. To begin, let's take a look at some of the reference photos that we have to work with. You'll see a photograph taken of an elevation of it. This fireplace has come a long way. It used to just be black tile. We actually painted over this and then glazed it. Found this mantle. And then since it's a non-working fireplace, we included these wood branches to give it some character. Now, I'm certainly not the designer of this. I'll have to thank my wife for all of her interior design decor ideas. The fireplace itself is pretty simple. We have the base, we have the mantle, and the real detail that we're going to have to create is in these spindles or these columns that you see here. Now, the workflow for this is really meant to show you how to simplify some of this complex geometry. We'll begin with the base, then we'll create the mantle, we'll add the detail of these columns, and then we'll apply a simple texture to the tile and the branches. Let's go back into SketchUp and let's zoom in, take the select tool, and double click so that we're inside the first floor group. The base is 9 inches from the ground, so take the tape measure tool and draw a guide at 9 inches. Take the line tool and draw a line across that guide. And remember, group often and group soon. Double click, select the base, and then right click and make it a group. Or if you have the keyboard shortcut, you can select G. Next, double click to enter the group. Go ahead and take the push pull and push pull this out 17 inches. Next, with push pull, click Option or Control on MPC and push pull this down 3 inches. Now with that push pull, it reversed this top face. So go ahead and right click and reverse that top face. Click Option again just to turn that plus sign off and push pull the sides in 1 inch. Take the select tool and just click outside of the group. Single click the group itself. And then if you have the keyboard shortcut for H to hide, go ahead and hide the object, or you can right click and hide it. We want to clean up this geometry here, so take the line tool and just draw a line over this bottom edge to heal this surface. And what it does is, since we created that as a group, that face became part of that group and left this blank. And I don't want that, because you'll notice after we erase the edge and guide and then unhide the base, we want this face here to show. Let's move on to the next section where we'll begin creating the mantle. To begin creating the fireplace mantle, let's take a look at the photos just for a reference. What we're going to do is create the top, the two sides, and then the middle piece. The top is 48.5 inches from the base to the top of the top piece here, and then it's 48 inches wide. These pieces are 1.5 inches thick, and then they're 9.5 wide, and the remaining distance is 48.5. Let's take the tape measure tool, create a guide 48.5 inches. Let's draw another guide from this edge over in the green axis until we hit the midpoint. The top of the mantle is 48 inches, so we can draw a guide from the center here over 24 inches, from the center again, and then this way 24 inches. Again, the thickness is 1.5 inches, so let's draw a guide down 1.5 inches, and then take the rectangle tool and draw the profile for the top. Go to Edit, Delete Guides. We no longer need those. Take the Select tool and now double click, and then again right click, make group, double click inside our group, then take the Push Pull tool and push this out 9.5 inches. Take the Select tool, click outside the group. Now we can draw our other sides. Let's actually bring that guide back. And from that guide, draw another guide 9.5 inches. And then take the rectangle tool and draw our rectangle. This time, double click and make this a component since we're duplicating it for the other side. Let's just call this mantle side. Replace selection with component checked and click Create. Double click to enter the component. Push pull this out 1.5 inches. Take the select tool, click outside of the component, and then select the component. Click on the move tool, and let's just position ourselves so that we can see this far edge. Click Option to bring up the plus sign. Let's copy this over in the green axes until we hit that far edge. Last but not least is the middle piece here. So let's zoom in. Next, let's take the rectangle tool. We know that this is 1.5 inches wide. So start in the top corner here. Draw your rectangle down, making sure you're in this section, we're going to add more detail to the mantle by creating the column. Take a look at the photo just to get a sense of what it looks like. So there's this rectangular base, then you have these circular dowels, and then you have this piece in the supporting structure. First, take the select tool and double click so that we're inside the group, and then double click so that we're inside this component. That way, whatever changes we make on this panel duplicate on this panel. Now, we didn't take any measurements for this piece. We're just going to eyeball it. Let's take the rectangle tool, draw a square on the base here, and let's make it 2.5, 2.5. I want this separate from the back panel. So double click on the face. And notice sometimes in SketchUp, when you double click on a face that's on the same plane as another face, it's actually entering the other group. To prevent that from happening, just go back, make sure we're inside here. Remember to use your hide rest of model. So that way when you double click, you're not going to open up the base group. Right click and make this a group. And now double click to open that group. And in this case, we can press Ctrl H. That way we can see the rest of our model. Let's extrude this base up. About 9 inches looks pretty good. Now for the circular pieces, we're going to draw a circle and an arc. The circle is going to be our path, and the arc is going to be our profile. Let's first take the tape measure tool, and we want to draw a guide point in the center. That way we have the center point. Next, let's take the circle tool, and instead of 24 sides, it's going to be a lot of geometry for a very small piece. Let's change this to 12. So type in 12 and press enter. And draw a circle out 1 inch. Next, let's take the line tool and draw a line straight up 1.5 inches. Draw a line then in the red axis, 0.75, then back down, and then back over. That way we have the beginning of our profile. Lastly, we'll take the arc tool, and we don't want 12 segments. Change this to 8. We'll start in the top point here, click once, click again at the bottom, and then move out for the radius. In this case, we're going to make it 1/2 inch. Now, just take the eraser and erase that middle edge. That way, that arc is just one face. For this to follow me, take the select tool and pre-select the face, then click the follow me tool and click on the profile. And that's going to create our bowl or a rounded shape here. And you can see it duplicate over there because that's a component. Take the select tool now. You can actually delete this face here. You don't need it. It'll save on model geometry. We can erase this edge. And now take the select tool, double click on the rounded shape we just created, and then right click on it and make it a component. Let's just name this. Click create. Take the move tool, click on the option key, and copy this up, in this case in the green axis, 1.5 inches. Now, let's figure out how many multiply. Let's try 12x. Let's try 15x. 16x. 16. The last geometry that we have to create for the mantle is a support piece from the column here to the shelf. Let's just take a look at our photos real quick. And what it does, it S's. So it starts here, it arcs, and then arcs back. And an easy way to create that in our model by double clicking, making sure we're in this component here. And just to keep pieces separate, let's double click this top face and make it a group, and double click on that and push pull this up here. And what I like to do is just push this out just to give us some geometry to draw from. Next, take the arc tool and we'll keep the geometry simple. So we'll start with 8 sides. In this video, let's apply some textures to bring this fireplace to life. Let's take a look at 2 images that we have in our folder. One is the tile texture that repeats on the wall, and the other is of the branches that actually close in the fireplace itself. Take the select tool, make sure we can select this face, and go to File, Import, find our tile texture, make sure we have Use as Texture, and then click Import. Now these tiles are 12 inches by 12 inches. So for the image texture, after we click once to start, we want the second click for the width to be 24 inches. And that way, this texture ends right here because this is 5 feet long. Now we don't want this texture here, so we need to create a face for it. So take the rectangle tool and just draw a rectangle over that area. Let's select that face and make it a group, and then double click to enter that. And the reason why we do that is there's a glitch in SketchUp where when you import textures right on an edge, it'll apply it to the edge to the left instead of on the edge that you're actually trying to apply it onto. So by grouping this, not only does it isolate geometry, but it'll make it a little bit easier to view this and just apply the texture. We can hide the rest of the model just to see that a little bit better. And now just go to File, Import like we did before. In this case, we want to use the wood texture file. Click Import. Start in the bottom left and click once. And here, just notice that if I click all the way to here, it'll cover the entire model. However, if you want to distort this, you can hold down Shift and it'll apply this non-uniformly. And basically, that's good for when you have a crop texture like this that may be in a different proportion than the actual geometry itself. Take the select tool and just click off of the area. You'll notice the base has sort of a beige color to it. Just take the paint bucket, sample that beige color. Showing up a little too dark. Lighten that up a little bit. And let's go inside the base and just apply that texture. Remember, you can hold down Shift and apply it to all the faces that have that same color. As far as all the other items to decorate the fireplace, later we'll show you the 3D warehouse and some other online repositories where you can drag in SketchUp models, where you can add more entourage into the model. So that finishes up this chapter. Let's go ahead and move on to another area of the house.